You needn't to look at me like that. I never asked to be a vampire. I don't know anybody who ever wanted to grow up to be a vampire. Not a real one. Little children generally want to grow up to be a cowpox or astronaut or to be underwriters like their mother. Not too many children sit around imagining what it would be like to live on blood and to live forever. Forever, okay? It's not all that great actually. Oh sure, it's fun not to worry about where will your money come from. But the next meal is always a challenge. And there are some people you will be friends with for a few years, and then one night when you get hungry, well, there you are. That's life. And the worst part of that is, you will get their money. And I always ended up taking some little trinket to remind me of my friends. And then the guilt sets in. It is a lot like being a vegetarian. Well, it is. Think about it. Most of vegetarians are opposed to eat meat. Not because it is not good for them or because it's the bad apple, but it's because they are opposed to killing. So then they have to pretend not to kill in order to eat. So do they only eat nuts that fall on their sidewalks in October? Or do they only eat fruits that already hits the ground? And if they do they carefully take out the seed from the fruits and scatter them around the trees intended? No, they don't do that. They feel guilty. See, everybody has to eat or we die. The instinct for survival just strong as in vampires as it is in humans. First of all vampires start out from human. Didn't you know that? Pretty scary, huh? That means you could become a vampire even if you don't want to. It happens 99 times out of 100. But as I said, not too many children sit around planning for the day they become vampires. For example, my childhood was perfectly normal. I was born in Virginia, when Virginia was the West Coast. My folks had a little piece of land, raised vegetables, a few of chickens, a couple of cows, and several hunting dogs. And kids. I had 6 brothers and 6 sisters. I was the 13th child. Unlucky number? I don't think so at that time. All of my family took care for each other, especially me. I was scolded as far as the chores went. Compared to the others, I had a little more to do. Just gathering eggs, cooking, baking, cleaning, washing up, and about 9,000 hours for needlework by the time I turned 10. Idle hands, you know. My family was God-fearing bunch, for Puritans really. Church was always painful in everywhere. Children were to be seen, not to be heard, except when the grown-ups weren't around, which they were not in my family because they were always working outdoors. My older sister ran the house and everybody else ran the farm. I went to school to 8th grade, which was quite a lot for a girl those days. But as I said, I was privileged to be the baby of the family, and my folks were quite advanced about their thinking about education for Puritans. Nevertheless, my childhood was relatively short, especially when you consider how long my adulthood has been. I married Mr. Withers the day I turned 13. He was an older gentleman of 26. Mr. Withers owned 180 acres a few miles down the road, and he had already buried his first wife when she died in childbirth. The child died as well, so at least I don't have to be a stepmother on my first marriage life. On our wedding night, Mr. Withers bit me on artery. I was fainted. No one had ever prepared me for this kind of wedding night. And when I came to, I was no longer a virgin, and I was no longer a simple human being. I had the hunger. As I said, my childhood was a little while back. Mr. Withers moved to another country around 150 years ago, and I decided to stay, to see the countries grow. I like the areas heavily populated myself. I make occasion to Asia, to Europe, to India, but mostly I stay right around here. What do you do all day? Do you have any sort of job that takes you out from your house 5 days a week? Do you work in home? Do you go to school? No, I don't do all of that stuff for myself. I cannot go out during the day, you know. Daylight and fires, to think that could kill me. So I took night classes. I took every class that was offered in Harvard after the dark. Even though I don't have an actual diploma, but I tell people that I went to Harvard. Very impressive. You might remember reading about a period in history. Cambridge had a lot of unexplained disappearance when I was going to night school. And when I'm afraid for getting caught, or when I just get bored, or when I just cannot find anything to eat, I go bury myself for a few years and take a nap. Every now and then, humans remember that vampires are real and they start to hunting us. Most of the time, I was careful to destroy any evidence. But in a few years, I get careless, so I have to move on and go underground. Humans are pretty funny about vampires. Didn't you know that? You do all sorts of things to try to ward us off, like wearing crosses or garlic. Crosses? What's scary about crosses? It symbolizes immortality, of Christ's sake. And for garlic, I like it. My favorite aroma is the smell of fettuccine with clam sauce made with fresh garlic and not crushed. It should be sliced finely or put a whole, shimmered in butter. That smells so good. Of course, I didn't eat it, but I found I'm very attracted to people who do. Catching me on fire could work if you really bent on destroying me. No one had ever tried that yet. But why you would want to destroy me? That's it. I'm simply calling out the population. Do you believe you will go when your time has come? I do. I don't seek out desperate or depressed, but when the hungers come, I believe I'm guided to those the time has come. Anyway, when I get through with them, the time has come. I don't get hungry all of that often. I go as long as I can go. I'm not greedy, I'm not a glutton. In fact, the first time I became a vampire, I was somewhat anorexic. I was so squeamish. But there's the time when the hunger takes all of that over. Again, I think vegetarian can relate. You have seen a vegetarian in McDonald's chewing down Big Mac and fries. They don't even see you. Their eyes glaze over and they just desperately not to believe they are eating meat. They just justifying in every way they can. Later they slink out and hope that no one see them, and they go to home and they feel guilty until they can forget about their little trips to Mickey's Tea. While being a vampire is nearly the same thing. Other than eating, my life was really good. It's like having an eating disorder. I wish I had known about eating disorder 200 years ago, so I could gone to join a group. Well, maybe now it's not too late for me to join a group. So I will join a group later. It might be good for me to know about my eating habits. So I'm not such a joiner person. I'm more a loner, and it's a rough life and it's forever. Sometimes when you are thinking about your time to death and you just getting afraid of it and not wanting it to happen, just think about me for a minute, will you? Not that I want your sympathy, but it's more like I want to know a little glimmer of your understanding. Just think, forever.